back. Thanks for staying with us on this 4th day of July 2022. Time now for our State of the Nation discussion on Daybreak this morning. Let me introduce my guests who are here with us in studio. On my far left, we have Fred Okango, Political Affairs Secretary, KANU. Welcome to the program, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you, Ege.
We're also joined by Sylvia Kasanga, who's a nominated senator under the Wiper Party. Karibu.
Asante sana, Wahiga. Nice to be here.
Good. And joining us shortly will be Isaac Mwaura, who is a nominated senator as well, and we'll be with him in just a bit. And before we talk about so much that's been happening, let's talk a little bit about a story we ran a bit earlier on, COVID funds queried. And why I'm starting here is because Sylvia actually led a Senate ad hoc committee to query the preparedness of the counties for COVID-19. I don't think she looked at vaccines yet, but here we are. Sylvia, let me start with you. What do you make of those Auditor General queries over the use of funds for this time around for the COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, Wahiga, I remember we had this conversation at some point last year. And it doesn't come as a surprise because you recall, even with the ad hoc committee on COVID, when we raised the issue, it still wasn't really fully resolved. In as much as we left, as ad hoc committee, we left the issue with the health committee at Senate to continue investigating the queries that had been raised by the Auditor General. I mean, we still didn't get a final answer, even after the report was tabled in Parliament. And that's, you know, it's very sad. These COVID funds in the counties and now with the vaccines and queries not being answered is still quite an issue that has left us a bit unhappy in Parliament, considering the ad hoc committee. In fact, when we came into existence, when we were formed in Parliament, it was at a time when the country really needed a lot of direction. So when we raised these queries, we anticipated and we hoped that they would be responded to just as fast at that time. But you can see, even up to today, those queries have never been answered. It has been an issue that I've been asked many times, Wahiga. I've been asked, what have you people done about, you know, the COVID funds at that time when we raised it? And, you know, we don't have much of an answer. And we are happy that the Auditor General did bring a very comprehensive report. And I'm happy that the Senate and both the ad hoc committee on COVID and even the Senate Health Committee did investigate every issues that were brought, and the report was tabled. So the lack of an implementation committee in Parliament and the fact that the government never picked up on the report for implementation still remains an issue. But beyond even what Parliament did, well, the president did promise that there's going to be a task force looking into it, I think, and some of the DPP's office, I think, was supposed to also have looked into it, and they were given a time period of 21 days. Again, we didn't see much coming out of these investigations on the COVID. So we wait and see what will happen with the vaccines. It doesn't really come as a surprise, Wahiga.
Whether we will get,
we'll get a full answer
on this. And,
yes.
Okango, the Deputy President himself even asked again during the manifesto launch, will we know what really happened around KEMSA and the COVID funds as well? Do the queries of the Auditor General give credence to the questions that at least the Kenya Kwanza side are asking?
Well, thank you, Ege. I think it's not only to what Kenya Kwanza are asking. Of course, to them, they are applying it politically. But to majority of Kenyans who believe in the principle of public finance, that public money must be used in a prudent and responsible manner. And again, we are happy as Kenyans that, the audit report has revealed some of the inconsistencies that are around or surrounding the COVID funds. You see, it is only the audit report that shall show whether public money has been used lawfully and reasonably. And the audit report has come out. But you see, there's politics and then there's the actual facts. The actual facts that have been tabled by the Auditor General report are there. Kenyans will read them because that's normally, a public document. I am just worried that as section politicians might try and use this report to capitalize and use it as a campaign tool, which should not be the case. We believe that in fighting wastage of public money, in fighting misuse of public money, and in fighting corruption, it must be objective and reasonable. And of that kind of report, we must leave it to Kenyans also to look at it. But even as we wait for the real outcome on what will happen, we have to also to understand, COVID came at a time when actually Kenyans or majority of the countries were not prepared for it. And in terms of procurement, you saw what happened when it came. People were scared. It was an emergency kind of, and this is a pandemic, and people feared. So the supplies, the procurement that were done could have had issues as per the report. But also let's understand that are there certain progress that we have made as a country as far as fighting COVID is concerned? My answer is yes. Are there areas that we failed in terms of procurement and that has been revealed by the audit report? The answer is also yes. So I want to ask the politicians who are trying to now, because they have been saying COVID billionaires, COVID billionaires. The report is out. Other than the misappropriation, they should also ask themselves, is there something they would have done themselves to stop the wastage? Is there something that they saw that was not good that they would have talked about then that should have even stopped this? Then the answer is also yes. So both sides are to blame. But I want to believe that Kenyans will finally know exactly what happened with the COVID funds, because now we've been told about vaccine. The other time it was mask, and the other time it was about procurement of the hospital, all those things.
Yes, yes.
This time, we must be very careful. When we are approaching the 2022 election, we should not throw stones at a glass house while ourselves we live in the glass house.
But we also, Kenyans will say we also need to know the truth.
That's true.
Whether we are throwing stones or not.
Absolutely.
Let me welcome Senator Isaac Mwaura. I was giving him a chance to just settle in, and I believe he has quickly perused through the paper. Senator, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I think you can start where he's left off. Auditor General raises queries about the use of funds for COVID-19 vaccines, or where some of those vaccines eventually ended up. What does that tell you this morning? And the side that you support has made that an election issue, which Okango is saying shouldn't be the case.
In the Senate, I asked a request for a statement on the same. I was actually the first to ask for that statement. And I remember when I did so, the House was really quiet because nobody wanted to venture into that. Remember the time we were given, we were told that 10 billion was used for tea, remember, and to buy, reams of paper. I was the first to do so. And of course, nobody ever answered that question. There was a task force whose initial chairman had to resign so that Sylvia would come in. We are living in a very corrupt country, and I am not very surprised that my brother Fred Okango here can come to say we should not talk about COVID-19, because that is what really opened the Pandora's box. If you look at even the public debt, we were increasing the ceiling from 6 to 9 trillion. That was gobbled up within the so-called COVID years. And that is when the president publicly declared that 2 billion shillings were being lost every day. So really, we cannot say that we cannot discuss, monies that were stolen. We saw inquiries of people, Akina David Murathe were mentioned, and many other people. KEMSA had to fire all of its senior management, and the board was dissolved. I mean, all of this, including Kembi Getura having to be transferred instead of even being fired to another agency. So I want to say without a doubt that we have actually lost it as a country when it comes to issues of, management of crisis and pandemics, because people take that as an opportunity to, siphon out government funds. In fact, the most celebrated Kenyans would be those who con money out of government. It's become a trend, Wahiga. And so today, we cannot come here on national television and trying to say that the effect of losing about 3 trillion shillings, ostensibly to this bogeyman called COVID-19, cannot be interrogated. Remember very well, the Senate itself had actually questioned the issue of managed equipment scheme, which was actually branded criminal enterprise. It appears then, in terms of management of our health, situations in this country, you end up really basically, striking gold. You know what I mean?
Let's broaden the discussion with a question here. As Kenyans look at who to vote for to lead the country for the next 5 years, they seem to be caught between two sides that are defining what corruption is and why the other side is guilty of it. One side accuses the other of having prominent members with court cases, don't trust them. In fact, they've used terms like, if you put them in a bus, half of them have cases and you know where they'll take you. The other side is accusing the opponents of partaking in a state capture, COVID scandal and so forth. How can the public tell which of these two formations is best placed is a safer pair of hands
I think if
to lead them for the next 5 to 10 years when these accusations fly left, right, and center, Senator?
Wahiga, there is no question about the fact that some of those state-sponsored cases are ostensibly for the same reason why we are discussing here today, is to paint other people, you know, as criminals and corrupt people. And most of them end up actually failing because they do not have any proof, they have no evidence, they are supposed to distract political competitors.
So the cases in court today are state-sponsored in your view?
A good number of them, and most of them fall through. Samson Cherargei had a case. Last week it collapsed. I mean, you know, you have so many people who have been taken to court just to settle political scores, and it's an abuse of the of legal process. But the whole issue of oligopolistic tendencies, duopolistic, monopolistic tendencies within our state-captured economy, there is no doubt about it.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll come back to you now to get deep into it. You've made your opening statement on that, Sylvia. Let me get a sense from you on that. Who are Kenyans to trust right now? Each side is saying, look at the other. That's where the problem is.
Okay, first let me just mention something in line with what my good friend Senator Mwaura has said. I don't think there's anyone in this panel here who has said that COVID funds should not be queried. And I think we are clear that Kenyans there must be enough transparency where public funds are concerned. And Senator Mwaura knows very well that in the Senate, we really queried the COVID funds situation. That one is clear. It is on record. It was both, actually, two committees, the ADO committee on COVID, as well as the health committee, and the reports were tabled to that effect. But to answer you now, Mwaura, who is Kenya safe with? You know, the fact remains, and we forget, that the deputy president has been in government. When we talk about corruption and state capture, there are enough reports. In fact, I was shocked to see that the Kenya Kwanza government wants to start a commission on inquiry on state capture. Yet we have a myriad of reports that give us a synopsis and a good detailed snapshot of what is state capture, budgeted corruption that has happened since 2013. In fact, I don't know how Kenya Kwanza team, the deputy president, would remove themselves from such a commission of inquiry, because they are squarely right in the middle there. Because we know budgeted corruption came with the Jubilee government. It was something that was completely unprecedented in this country with what we saw from 2013. So Kenyans should know that as the president, Uhuru, is going to retire, his deputy should actually go and retire with him, because they've had a chance to demonstrate what they can do to Kenyans and they can do for Kenyans. I don't see what it is that they're coming to resolve after having been the ones who are the cause of the issues that Kenyans are suffering right now, Wahiga. So when it comes to fighting corruption, look at the manifesto also that places corruption as fighting corruption as number one. You know, you cannot speak of a new or revamping of the economy in whichever model you want to talk about without putting corruption as first. And we have seen from the reports from all the agencies who are, you know, tasked with giving us reports on fiscal management. We've seen NGOs that are working against, you know, corruption and you know, the reports on budgeted corruption and all that is in the public purview to demonstrate that the Jubilee government has already done its part. They need to move aside. They're the reason why the corruption is where it has reached in this time. And let the Azimio One Kenya government come in and show you how to fight corruption and seal all those loopholes, because this country has enough money, Wahiga. Without a doubt, we always say there's enough money in this country. It is how we first seal all those loopholes where we're bleeding money so that we can put that money back into the development agenda and fighting the economic state of the country as we speak of it.
Fred Okango, even as you possibly respond to what Senator Mwaura and Senator Kasanga have said, it seems both leading political formations agree that there's a corruption problem. And both of them agree that Jubilee, that it reared its ugly head again during the Jubilee regime. As Jubilee exits in the next 35 days or so, will Kenyans really know what happened? Or will it get caught up in this crossfire? The KANU party that you served was once in power. There were many questions that were asked then. They exited and, you know, everything went quiet on the same. NAC was in power as well, finished their 10 years. Okay, NAC then PNU. Kenyans never really got closure on what happened there. Will it be the same with Jubilee, where after August 9th, water under the bridge, move on with life?
I think most of the issues have been addressed by Senator And for me, I want to remind my good friend, Senator Mwaura, that Azimio One Kenya government,
I hope he is paying attention.
Believes he should pay attention. Azimio One Kenya government believes in the principles of public finance. And I started in my opening remarks and said that public money must be used in a prudent manner. And that's why, even in Azimio, we would want to know exactly what happened with the COVID money. Number two, I reiterated that it is only the audit report that will reveal whether public money was used lawfully and reasonably. And therefore, to that extent, as Azimio, we strongly support the fight against corruption. In fact, Mwahiga, if you look at our Azimio agenda, what we call Azimio Manifesto, we have committed, we have not promised, we have committed that within 100 days of our government, when we will not if, we shall declare corruption a national security threat. And we have said in explicit terms in what we call Azimio la Uwajibikaji. That means we are looking at the effects of corruption wholesomely and systemically. And we have put it clearly. Look at our ticket. Our ticket of Martha and Baba is a ticket that has communicated how to finish corruption from day one. A ticket that has brought us admirers and supporters. Today, everyone in this country who believes in the safety of this country believes that the only ticket that is going to end corruption, the only ticket that is going to unpack the corruption that was in Jubilee government is the ticket of Baba and Martha. Isaac Mwaura, my good friend senator here, has said certain things that I'm sure Kenyans are wondering. I have not heard Kenya Kwanza speak explicitly about corruption and how they're going to tackle it. What I've heard them taking credit...
Is that a fair statement to make?
I mean, it's a fair statement.
They've outlined they're going to depoliticize the corruption process. They're going to strengthen independent institutions to be able to